Well, welcome everyone. My name is Alan Horton and I'm the chairman of the Moorings Park Foundation. This is a thank you party. You know what? You can tell from looking at me, I've been spending too much time watching the Hallmark Channel. I've been tears in my eyes every night over happy endings and hope fulfilled and so on and so forth. And you know what? It's fitting because everyone who's here today has either helped make some of those happy endings happen or has been a recipient of them and therefore benefited. So we're gonna thank some people. First of all, Betsy, I'm gonna let you push the clicker if you have it, please. Our mission is to create a culture of philanthropy that provides opportunities to benefit residents of Moorings Park, its employees, and the greater community. And what we're here tonight is mostly to celebrate that last part, the greater community. And frankly, the biggest part of what we've received from our residents in the last 5 years has gone to help needy seniors. We do an awful lot on campus for scholarships for our partners, our employees. And we also do a lot of scholarship funding, and you'll see some of that tonight, and some of you are here to be recognized for the work you do with that. Let me just start then by explaining that we have hundreds and hundreds of people here at Moorings Park who donate to the foundation, but the major givers belong to the Orchid Society, which are donors who fund, who provide a $50,000 gift or more, or the Cornerstone Society, people who put legacy gifts in their estate plans. And they provide a good portion, a majority of the money that comes from our residents. Let's start the thank yous. Most of you who receive grants, your organizations receive grants in a very competitive process. 3 residents, Tom Clark, Bob Fritz, and Dennis McCarthy. Are any of them here? All right, stand up, Dennis. They worked very hard to analyze every single application, and they did spreadsheets, and they looked up, what do they call it, 990s? 990s, and so on and so forth. And in fact, I was so impressed that I thought we ought to recognize them more than we did, because they took, normally the foundation board itself has to get involved more than it did. We didn't have to do anything except, good job, guys. So the thanks to the foundation board, you see there in that group there are 6 residents from Moorings Park. They form 6 of the 9 members. And when I say Moorings Park, I mean not only Moorings Park, but Moorings Park Gray Oaks. We have 2 campuses, we'll soon have 3. And before too long, we'll have residents from all 3 on our board. And don't go too fast now. I want to single out particularly, well, raise your hands if you're on the board. Do that, please. All right, you can see who they are. Afterwards, in the reception, say hello to them and thank them for their service and see what they can do for you. On that list there at the bottom of that first column, Dan Lavender is not only the CEO of Moorings Park, he's also the CEO of the Moorings Park Foundation. Dan has brought focus, vision, and professionalism to the foundation, as with everything else at Moorings Park. Let's recognize Dan. Okay, Betsy. When we talked about seniors, and let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Recently, the Community Foundation revealed some of their latest research on seniors' needs. And some of this was so interesting that Betsy, and I'll introduce Betsy in a minute, Betsy put some of those facts into this little slideshow. You won't be able to read it where you are, but let me tell you what this slide shows. It shows that in 2019, Collier County ranked first in length of life out of the 67 Florida counties. People live longer here, and also ranked second of the 67 counties in quality of life. We read those kinds of things and we think, wow, we don't have much work to do. The opposite is true. Embedded in those numbers are thousands, literally more than 7,000 seniors in this county in great need, and the number is growing every year. Let's go to the next slide. Some of these are pretty startling statistics, and I thought maybe, I don't want to steal Eileen Conley Kiesler's thunder. She's not here tonight, so don't tell her that I have. That first part of the slide there shows that in 2050, 60.9 will be the median age in Collier County. That means that literally half of the population will be 61 or older. That's pretty startling. If you look at the same time, Florida will be 47.2 senior, and the nation will be 41.6. Both Florida and the nation are getting older. We're getting older faster. Look at the far right of that. 5% of Collier County's total population today is at least 85. That means one out of every 20 is 85 or older. In 2050, it'll be 22%. So people are living a lot longer. Now let me tell you what's on the other side of the coin. We don't have this slide up here, but I want you to know about it. The percentage of seniors is getting greater and greater. The percentage of the young workforce, 18 to 24, is declining dramatically. So we cannot let any of those young people fall through the cracks. We have got to have them in the workforce. So that's why we do the scholarships we do. That's why so many of you work so hard at not making sure kids don't fall through the cracks. Okay, Betsy. Another interesting fact, at Moorings Park, we have a tremendous percentage of veterans in our population. And you know why that is. I mean, most of us are old enough to remember the draft, not too happily. But nevertheless, remember the draft and remember all those wars, starting with World War II. And so if you look at that chart, you see that there are 52% who are 75 or older of the veterans in the county, and 27% 65 or older. So if you add those two together, nearly 4 out of 5 of the veterans in Collier County are retirement age. Now that also means that need for facilities to care for needy veterans is great. And that's why you hear our county commissioners setting aside money for another veterans facility, hopefully one in Collier County. Again, poverty by age group, I mentioned it, the bottom line there, 7,059 of the people who are in poverty, below the poverty level in the county are seniors, 65 or older. That's a lot of people, folks. You know, and I'm not going to steal Jackie Pfeffer's thunder, but she talks about this all the time. Loneliness, isolation, and depression are literally at epidemic proportions in Collier County, and not just in Collier County. And it's also true that depression and declining mental and physical health increase the risk of death, and I might add, Alzheimer's. And that's what the next slide says. Okay, let's see one more. So, I mentioned this earlier, in the last 5 years, Moorings Park residents have collectively raised and awarded more than $905,000 in Moorings Park Foundation grants to local agencies serving needy seniors. Now that's a significant portion of the millions that we've raised for all topics. Okay, Betsy. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce a dear friend who started the Naples Senior Center with the help of a very good board 5, 6, 7 years ago. When was it? It was 6 years ago in January. 6 years ago in January, in a building over on Costello, literally a long walk from here, not far. And they've already outgrown that building. They started with several hundred people, and they're now up to several thousand people being served in that place, and doesn't have enough parking or enough square feet to manage everybody. But that senior center actually got the ball rolling. And then another one that we've been trying to get started for years in Golden Gate, and we have the Golden Gate Senior Center people are here too, right? Yeah. Tatiana, do you learn anything from Jackie? I know she learns from you. You're going to hear from them later, but I want you to know that when I first met Jackie Pfeffer, I was chair of the Community Foundation, and she was looking for some money to get started. And we gave one of the first grants, I think, outside of her own organization. And we've been doing it ever since there and here, because she is a dynamo. She is everything you can possibly want in someone who runs a local charity. Jackie Pfaffer, your microphone.
Thank you for your kind words, and thank you for not stealing what I'm going to say. Could you? Okay. Can everyone hear me? As you just saw on the previous slides, we are in the midst of what I frequently call a silver tsunami. By 2050, the older adult population will almost double. We also saw that here in Paradise, more than 7,000 seniors live in poverty. How do we reconcile that with the headlines in publications like Forbes that state we are the #1 place to retire and that the quality of life here in Naples is above reproach? We reconcile it by recognizing that we are really a tale of two cities. And no one knows it better than those in this room. The generous donors of Moorings Park Foundation and the service providers fortunate enough to be recipients of the foundation's grants. Thank you for inviting me to talk about senior needs in Collier County. I feel I am speaking to a group of friends. And although I will begin with financial insecurity, I will always remind you that not all needs are financially based. I like to think of the foundation as supporting the needs of seniors, not just needy seniors. Even though I said that it's not all financially based, I will start with financial insecurity. We have seniors who have always struggled financially, and we have seniors who at one time were comfortable. But life happened. A spouse dies, investments turned out to be poor investments, and a person simply outlived his or her income. These people that we're referring to as financially insecure experience food insecurity, the inability to find affordable housing, perhaps the #1 challenge here in Collier County for the entire demographic, not just seniors, homelessness, and managing pretty well on the edge until an unexpected crisis occurs. And this does not refer to the 7,000 living in poverty, but to those living slightly above poverty. They have a sudden unbudgeted expense, like a water heater fails, a tire blows out, or an assessment from their community association is delivered in the mail. This expense puts them in the position of deciding between buying food or paying the electric bill. And we hope that they know to seek assistance from the community agencies here to help them. The second issue is vulnerability. We are fortunate in Collier County to have a wonderful sheriff's department, and he works closely with each of us to help us serve those who come to us at their most vulnerable time. We know for our seniors in particular, there are financial scams. Everyone knows about the grandparent scam. Hello, Grandma. This is Brian. I need your help. The Microsoft computer scam. We've had 3 or 4 senior center members who we have had to help get out of that mess. The IRS scam. This is the government calling. The charity scam. We have a 78-year-old veteran who fell for a scam like this about 6 years ago, where he had a significant portion of his Social Security check taken from his account once a month. He thought supporting a child in Africa. He came to us because he ran out of money to pay his rent. We engaged the sheriff's office, and we finally got him out of that mess. Here was a man who thought he was doing a good thing, who was getting all of his money taken away. Identity theft. We all know about that. I bet you people in this room have been affected by that. I know I have. And then we also have the challenge of having our seniors being taken advantage of by those they trust the most, their caregivers and their adult children. You've heard me refer to the woman who lived in a fully paid house in Pelican Bay, who turned her finances over to her substance-abusing adult daughter, who mortgaged the house, and the woman became homeless. And we had to help her find a residence and get back on her feet. Would she press charges? Of course not, because 99% of the time, we always protect our children. That's just what a parent does. The third need is dementia. We know the statistics. There are 22,000 people in Collier and Lee County living with dementia, and there are 13,000 family caregivers caring for them. The Alzheimer's Association says 1 in 9 over 65 will be diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease or a related dementia. We know the impact this has on the person, but we often forget the impact it has on the caregiver. Recent issues of the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and the Naples Daily News have focused on issues related to caregivers. It's estimated that there are 44 million people, or roughly 18% of the United States adult population, who are providing unpaid care to someone who is 50 years of age or older. And it's not surprising that 60% of Alzheimer's and dementia caregivers rate that the emotional stress of caregiving is either high or very high. Caregivers often neglect to take care of themselves. They isolate themselves from others, or friends distance themselves because of their own discomfort. And understandably, the caregiver becomes depressed and anxious. This is why caregivers are often referred to as the forgotten patient. Think about the next time you see a friend or an acquaintance who is caring for someone with dementia. And when you say, "How is your loved one?" take a minute, and after asking how the person with dementia is doing, ask the caregiver how he or she is doing. How many times do we forget that? It's only natural. If we are in the midst of a silver tsunami, we are also in the midst of a dementia disaster. As we all know, dementia is an equal opportunity destroyer. And I always illustrate this by referring to the late chairman of Porsche, who sat next to one of our dementia respite clients, a cocktail waitress from Las Vegas, and they became fast friends. We are grateful to the Moorings Park Foundation for funding the Naples Senior Center Dementia Outreach and Support Program. Through this, we provide case management and support services to women who are caring for their husbands, fathers, or other relatives in their own homes. The last need I will talk about, number 4, is isolation and loneliness. There is a great deal of research in this area going on right now, and it's intertwined with all of the other needs. Human beings are social animals. Our biological and psychological and social systems evolved to live in collaboration and thrive in networks of people. As people age, social networks begin to thin, often leading to isolation and loneliness. We quantitatively define someone who is socially isolated as one who lives alone, has less than monthly contact with friends or family, and does not belong to a group, such as a church or a volunteer organization. The term social disconnectedness is often used to refer to that person. Perceived isolation is defined as the subjective experience of lack of companionship and support. This can be someone who is living at home with a spouse, maybe with dementia, living with a family, but feels very much alone. We at Naples Senior Center and the Golden Gate Senior Center work with both populations. Why is this important? Why is all the focus now on social isolation and loneliness? It's not that we just want people to feel happy. As you heard a little earlier, there is increasing evidence that the isolation and loneliness of seniors has an impact on health. And now there is vast literature, more emerging on this topic. According to the research, we are on the precipice of a health crisis brought about by social isolation and loneliness. Let me share a few findings. Effects of social isolation and loneliness on health are a strong enough force that they consistently emerge as unambiguous risk factors of health and mortality. In a study of cardiac and stroke patients, findings indicated that social isolation and loneliness were associated with a 29% increase in the risk of coronary heart disease and a 32% increase in stroke. This increased risk is comparable to the risk factors of obesity and lack of physical activity. Social stimulation can help maintain brain health, and the absence of social interaction can lead to cognitive decline. What is being done? Well, as you may know, Britain has a ministry of loneliness, and bills have been introduced in New Jersey and in Minnesota to study the ill effects of isolation and loneliness and to develop programs to address the crisis. When you look at the smiling faces in the slides to come, you can be proud that you are not only improving the quality of life for seniors, but perhaps you are saving some lives as well. In summary, I believe the 4 issues facing our seniors today are financial insecurity, vulnerability, dementia, and social isolation and loneliness. Not to be a Debbie Downer, I always like to conclude with a happy ending, and here it is easy. Everyone in this room is working towards helping our seniors address these issues. And the Moorings Park Foundation is making it possible for each and every agency funded to make a significant difference in seniors' lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. That was very timely, and I hope everyone learned as much as I did. Betsy Jones is the administrator of the foundation, and she's going to do the third part of our thank you party, which is to thank and recognize the agency who received the grants and explain what they're doing with them.
Okay. Will do. Hello, and thank you, Dr. Pfaffer. I'm sure that the foundation board and our grants review committee next year will use all of that information as great background for our selection of the projects and programs that we next year fund with grants. As Alan said, we're trying to serve our senior population, and the most important thing we can do is to educate the workforce that can serve them too. So we are also here to celebrate our education grants, and that will come after these. But first of all, I wanted to, one by one, introduce to you the people that are here to represent the various agencies that received grants and tell you the projects that you all, as residents, funded for them. When I say your name, if you don't mind standing up, then people will know who you are, and then after we break out into our cocktail party, then you'll know who you can go and buttonhole for some questions. First of all, these are in alphabetical order. The foundation awarded $10,000 to Avow Hospice, and representing them today are Jason Roa, the president and CEO. Thank you for standing up. And Vip Grover, who is the chairman of their board. They would love to meet you afterwards. Their grant is, of course, providing adult loss and grief support, particularly for our older adults that they serve. Thank you. Next, we have the David Lawrence Mental Health Center, who received a grant of $20,000. Thank you for being here. This is Scott Burgess, Executive Director, and Bill O'Neill, the Board Chairman. Thank you. Thank you. David Lawrence is receiving a grant for the first time from the foundation, and they are focusing programs of depression counseling and opiate addiction detox specifically for our older adults. Thank you. They're having their 50th anniversary this year, apparently. Did you know that Polly Keller, your founder, lives here? Oh, okay. The Golden Gate Senior Center received a grant of $25,000 this year, and representing them is Tatiana Fortune, the center director, who many of you have met when we go visit there, and Jim Barton, board member, who many of you have met when we go to your gala. Chairman, so sorry. The Golden Gate Senior Center found a program in Tallahassee that they liked, and it's called Upslide. It has to do with assessment, counseling, and engagement to reduce loneliness and isolation in our elderly. So very appreciated that we could help make that happen. That is a group that went to visit them this year. We love to do that every year. So nice to see what our money is doing. The next one, Legal Aid Service of Collier County, was a first-time applicant and received $5,760 for a Gray Light Elder Law project, which is, of course, pro bono legal advice. Carol O'Callahan is a well-known name in this town. Apparently, she does a really great job with this. And David Morrison is an advisory board chairman. He's not here today, but thank you so much for being here. And there's their logo, if you hadn't realized it. Lighthouse of Collier is here for the first time today, too. They received a grant of $10,000, and representing them are Scott Flagel, who is their CEO, and Wendy Olson, who is their Director of Programs. I'm sure they will love visiting with you afterwards. They are giving adaptive living lessons to seniors who are diagnosed with vision loss. So nice if you can find out ahead of time so you can learn how to deal with it. That's their logo if you're not familiar with it. We have several residents here who take advantage of your services. Thank you. The next group is, of course, the Naples Senior Center. Jackie Pfaffer is the boss at JFCS, and they received a grant of $65,000, which I'm sure you all appreciate providing for her. Thanks. She's doing support for at-risk senior caregivers, which is a new trend in our applications this year, to take care of the people who are taking care of the people. And got to keep them healthy or we'll have a big problem on our hands. Thank you so much. It's called Dementia Outreach and Support. At-risk women who are caregivers of loved ones. Several of our residents use your services too. They have some good respite programs. Parkinson's Association is here and received a grant of $24,400, again to treat caregivers of people with Parkinson's disease, and representing them is Linda Goldfield, their executive director. Step Smart Scholar is here, receiving a $20,000 grant for people. They do presentations all around town to help people to prevent falling by learning how to work with that. Doug Hartman is here. Thank you, Doug. I told you I fell out of bed this morning, right? Then finally, Valerie's House is here. They received a grant of $8,000 to start grief support groups here in Collier County for grandparents who are suddenly raising grieving grandchildren who've lost their parents. And representing them is Gary Copey, the chairman of their board. Thanks for being here. Now I'd like to introduce to you the education grants that were awarded this year. And starting, I'd really like to share with you a good success story that'll make you feel good. I would like to introduce you to one of our employees. His name is Francisco Cuevas, and he is going to share with you a really good impact story.
Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us at this wonderful celebration. My name is Francisco Cuevas. I have been asked to share the impact that the educational grants that Moorings Park Foundation provides can have on individuals. So when I was in high school, I joined the Guadalupe Center as an after-school tutor for elementary school students. And once I graduated, I received a full ride scholarship to Arcadia University in Glenside, Pennsylvania through the Guadalupe Center. And this organization receives educational grants every year from the Moorings Park Foundation to fund scholarships. And Mr. and Mrs. Blankley, who are here in the audience today, are generous donors to the Moorings Park Foundation and the Guadalupe Center, and they have been beloved mentors to me. Growing up in Immokalee, you come to learn that the town is known for two things: agriculture and football. Currently, there are 4 Immokalee-grown football players in the National Football League, one being a Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots. At the same time, Immokalee is one of the top tomato producers in the country. What does this say about Immokalee? In my eyes, it says that Immokalee is no stranger to hard work. 45% of people in Immokalee are below the poverty line. It's hard for students to imagine themselves doing anything else other than the 2 options I mentioned. I've always asked myself, what about education? With the statistic I just gave, pursuing a higher education is not always an option for students in Immokalee. My parents immigrated to the United States from Mexico, and ever since I could understand, they instilled in my head that education is important and it's the only way out. During my college summers and Christmas breaks, I worked in construction in Southwest Florida and all over the East Coast, and I had the pleasure of working here in Moorings Park on the R building. And just this time last year in December, I was working at the 3rd campus, Moorings Park Grand Lake. While working those endless hours, my father and other workers will tell me, make sure you finish your schooling so you don't have to be out here for the rest of your life like us. I would look at the finished buildings and wonder what a career would be like in a place like this. I appreciated my time as a construction worker and everything that it taught me, but I didn't see myself doing that for the rest of my life. As my time in college was ending and I was on the job hunt, I remembered my time here at Moorings Park building the buildings. And so I did a quick search, and to my surprise, there was a general accountant position open. So I applied, and here I am today. With no doubt in my mind, I can say that if it wasn't for the scholarship I received from the Guadalupe Center, I would not be here today. I want to thank all the donors to the Moorings Park Foundation and your continued belief in education and supporting for students all over Collier County. A side note, at the end of this year, I will say not a goodbye, but a see you later to Moorings Park, as I begin a new role as an audit associate with PricewaterhouseCoopers in Miami, Florida. Again, if it wasn't for the scholarship and the great work that you guys provide and the support that you guys provide towards education, I would not be here. Thank you all for being here and belief in education, and for supporting the annual Moorings Park Foundation educational grants. Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. Many more success stories are here because of you all, the donors and our educators. With us today is Kitty Green, Vice President of Advancement for Florida Gulf Coast University, and there she is. I hope you can buttonhole her afterwards, have a toast with her over a glass of wine and some hors d'oeuvres, and ask her about that $25,000, because they're making some things happen. It provides 12 scholarships for students majoring in medical fields, exercise, and hospitality, fields which we all know and love and need around here. Thank you so much. Inspiring. Inspiring. Florida Southwestern State College is also here. Chris Vernon is a former chair of the Board of Trustees, and also representing FSW is Dr. Terrence Hayes, a student success advisor. Thank you. FSW received a grant of $25,000, which they will turn into 12 scholarships in the fields of education and healthcare. This is where specifically they put their funds. A scholarship in the School of Education, a scholarship in the Emergency Services Program, and lots of scholarships in nursing, radiology, and respiratory care. That's a fabulous lab if you haven't toured it. They consider graduating debt-free to be a huge gift, and they thank you for that. Especially our resident, Mr. Sheffield, too, who's also given a gift to them toward graduating nurses debt-free. Grace Place is here, represented by Dr. Tim Dr. Tim Ferguson, and Mario Valli, who is the board chairman. Grace Place received a gift of $50,000 from Moorings Park Foundation for their AP Scholar Program. Their goal is to graduate 100% of these kids into colleges and change their lives for the better in an area of town that is very much needing this. There's their class of 18. Woohoo! Come work for us. Guadalupe Center is here, represented by Don Montecalvo, their executive director, and also represented by two of our residents who serve on their board. They are Carl Amon and Tom Brand. I also know that Walt and Rosemary Blankley are big supporters of Guadalupe Center. That's in fact why they started to give support to the Moorings Park Foundation, because they knew we were supporting Guadalupe Center. Thank you all for being here. Their Tutor Corps graduates receive scholarships and go forward, and they're very, very appreciative to Moorings Park Foundation for that. And there are the Blankleys, and there's Francisco, one of the graduates. He did such a nice job today. Hodges is here, represented by their president, Dr. John Meyer, and by Dr. Mary Newsey, who is their Dean of Professional Services. There she is. Hodges is the first group that ever asked us for 3 grants, and we gave them 2. So the committee was impressed. They are you all awarded them 2 scholarships for bilingual students studying mental health counseling, some field placement software serving the whole group of students, and also an $8,000 grant that provides 2 nursing scholarships that they call the Moorings Park Nursing Scholarships. Thank you so much for all you do. And there are some of the nursing students. And Mrs. Hodges, there she is. Immokalee Technical College is here, represented by Doran Oxender, who is the director of iTech. I know it as iTech. At $18,000, they have, it's a wonderful technical school. Their scholarships will cover 40 different adults in a lot of different areas. Here are some represented on this slide that they sent us. Culinary and cosmetology. I think that's welding up there, could it be? And something else down there. It looks electronic or machining or something. Machining. Oh, we need that. Thank you. Lorenzo Walker Technical College is represented here by Yolanda Flores. Thanks for coming from here after a long school day, I'm sure. Yolanda is the director of the Lorenzo Walker Technical College. They received 2 grants also, come to think of it, $18,000 for 25 scholarships in an array of programs, particularly those planning to serve local seniors, which I love, medical, maybe that's culinary, and medical as well. Thank you for that slide. She's also representing Project Explore, which many of us know and love. It's the group of students that come in, and it's people that are having learning differences, and they come into Moorings Park jobs all over our campuses, and it helps them to transition into the workplace afterwards. Super, super program. Also represented today, this is outside of our grant program officially, but this year, well, 2 years ago, the Senior Peak Challenge, which is one of our 2 annual appeals, focused on the healthcare network, and the money was put aside until they broke ground, and now they broke ground. So Healthcare Network is represented here today by Mike Ellis, a past executive director, and also by Dr. Corin DeChirico, the chief medical director. Are they here? Oh, yes, good. So nice to have you here. I'm looking forward to meeting you. So thank you all for that support of Healthcare Network. The facility they are building will support our partners in a big way. Lots of them live right there, and we'll have access to good health care through that facility. And there it is. It will house an area that has the Moorings Park Foundation name on it, and it will house an area that has Carl and Alice Sheffield name on it. Thanks for all of that good support. And as the Sheffields will tell you, all of our community and education grants potentially benefit all of our partners who are our employees. And that's important to us and to our donors. We want to thank you. I just wanted to end this by thanking you for helping, you, our residents, and you, our agencies, for helping the thousands of local seniors and students with these grants. All of the contributions came this year from Moorings Park and Moorings Park at Gray Oaks, who are both represented very well here. And I wanted to mention to you that we're having a party for you in back. The whole idea was to let our residents meet our agencies and make some connections. It's Giving Tuesday, and I know some of you probably gave directly to some of these organizations, and I did put some envelopes back there, just in case you want to start funding next year's grants. But anyway, in the meantime, I'm so happy that you are here, and I hope you enjoy our party in the back. Thank you.